It froze. Are you unfrozen now?
I'm pretty sure we're live. So
there we are. Okay. It froze on my end. Greetings and salutations, gamers. Welcome to Cast Co-op, the podcast in which three podcast hosts cast together. I am one of your co-hosts, Luke Lore, the insipid ghost and host of the Xbox Expansion Pass. And I am joined by the enemy of fun, the man who doesn't like jokes, the guy who hates all thumbnails of humor, Mr. Ainsley Bowden. Hello, sir.
It's true. Good evening, sir. How is my favorite? Oh, I forget the name. I was going to make a joke about you being the Starfield Wanderer guy, and I forget the actual name. So
I don't know his name either. Makes you feel better.
Oh, well.
Starfield
Anyway,
guy.
what's going on? I'm good.
I'm a little under the weather. I'm a little sniffly. A little sniffly. So
You make it work.
yeah, we'll be all right. We'll be all right. We are also joined by the man, the myth, the legend, the host of the Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast, Mr. Kyle Stevenson. Hello, sir. Oh, sorry, we got the backup. Joseph. Moran.
we've got the B replacement, the B level
B-team,
replacement.
B-team.
I like that. Hey, Luke, I was gonna say I've made a lot of jokes on your behalf.
Yeah,
A lot.
Yep.
Would you? I mean, and I mean, like sometimes it's like every other day I think of, oh, this is a funny thing I can make fun of Luke on, and then like people on Twitter get it, they like it, they retweet it, they laugh at your expense. Would you like me to stop doing that as much, or do you know that it's just a joke?
I know that it's just a joke. I hate that I can't come back at you the same way.
Yeah,
because kids.
I'm pretty smart. I'm pretty quick. You know, I got like, oh, you look like Starfield guy. Oh, your eyes are red. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your skin tone's the same tone of your wallpaper behind you. Like it's just so much.
Yeah.
You look like snow. You know.
Dang. Ouch. Speaking of, I called the doctor today. I was like, hey, can I get us? Because I've gone to two different doctors for this eye thing. They're like, we can get you in September. And I was like, are you kidding me? And so I kind of was like, mean about it. They're like, well, what's your problem? I was like, I have a sty that won't go away. She goes, we don't treat styes. And I'm like, what? So here I am. This is just me now. This is just me. This is it.
Yeah, we know. You're part of the infected.
Yep. There you go. There you go.
I'm doing great, bud.
I'm glad you're doing well. Glad you're doing well. Ains, you were a little under the weather a week or so ago, weren't you?
I was sick last week, and then I was like sick last night. So yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on, but it ain't very good. It's not fun.
Oh my gosh.
So
guys,
yeah.
We might have caught a computer virus.
I got sick coming back from LA. That was the problem. Conference made me sick. Yeah.
So, well, boys, it is good to see you guys. We were casting on schedule this week, which is big deal.
Right?
Big deal for us, right?
We casted last week.
No, we did not.
Yes, we did last Tuesday.
What are we doing here today then? I thought it was a week and a half ago. Did we cast last week?
Well, it's a week and 2 days ago, but yeah, last Tuesday we casted.
Well, everybody,
you asked me, "Are we casting?" And I said, "Okay, Thursday," and we all said, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, we're casting more regularly now. Cool. All right, cool.
All right, fair enough."
You know what? We wanted to hang out with all of you cool people.
Yeah.
I see Anubis in chat. Love him. Gamefire. Rob is there. Who else is that? DeFloyd, Austin. Hey guys. Yeah, we're here for you. What's up?
Why are you sounding like Elmo?
Oh my God.
No, he's getting very high pitched over there.
Rocco's just a rock.
Rocco's just a rock. Guys, it's kind of cool, I will say. Amidst all this Activision Blizzard mess, there's actual real information buried in there. Yeah. I like that because we've had months and months of people armchair analyzing and pretending like they understood. And here we are with actual real information, and it sounds like the case is now it's like in for decision. That wrapped a few minutes ago, and we'll have an answer by this time next week, right? Please,
sure,
right,
sure.
Neither of you sound confident. Don't like that.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. I think I speak for Ains here, where I think the insights have been awesome. Like we know we could kind of now see how they talk to each other. You know, you mentioned this on the trophy room last night. It's like, oh, they talk pretty open to one another. Like Pete Hines is kind of openly going, well, like, what's the difference between the Call of Duty game and our game? Like, why can't we do that and why can they do that? You know, them speaking pretty candidly, kind of like how we do on a podcast, going, hey, who should be someone we pick up, right? Like, you know, some of those conversations, that's interesting. The numbers and like Indiana Jones, all that stuff. But then you get to, you know, the fanboyism, and you can really tell from the content creators that live for it and the ones that don't by type of venom that they're spewing on socials. And I'll be real with you. I'm kind of it bums me out seeing people that I think I once at least respected in this field stoop really low and act pretty childish during this whole ordeal. And at the same exact time, like the people like us that are just seeing all this just, you know, bull crap, and it's just we're getting really tired of it. You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think
that's
well said
right now.
No, I think that's well said. That's where I am. It's like, I think you're both right. There's some really interesting insights here. It's a reminder, at least for me, that we've said this before, and you know, I know many of us have been fortunate to talk to a lot of people across the industry, all the way up to very high level executives, right? And when you speak to them one-on-one or in a casual conversation like this, you realize pretty quickly they're just another person, man. These are all just normal people living their daily lives who have a job like anyone else. Their job just happens to be running Xbox or running PlayStation, or, you know, these other things that we admire from the outside looking in so fondly, because we look at them as the delivery mechanism of these experiences that we've had through our lives and continue to have. And I think that's really cool from a job perspective. But at the end of the day, they work a shift, they go home to a family, they go play games or do whatever they do like any other person. And it's, I think a lot of the email exchanges that have come out, like Luke was referring to, and well, that you both were referring to, have been interesting just to see, when they're in their work environment and they're just talking to one another, they're talking just like anyone else does. And I think that some of the insight around that's been really cool. And I think obviously learning about specific details about certain things that we've only known either through whispers or some type of kind of circumstantial data is cool to see as well. So those are the things I'm interested in. I think you nailed it, Joe. All the you know, the back and forth, the constant, well, this company's evil and this company's evil and they're doing this and they're doing this. I just don't have time for it. I just don't. It bores me to tears, and I'm not here for the drama. So that's why I'm kind of mixed. Like, you haven't seen me talk much about it because we, on Big Cast, obviously Hoag's there, right? He's super well versed on this stuff, and I look at him as the go-to from a legal perspective of understanding this stuff. And once he talks about that stuff, I let him speak to that, listen, learn, and then I kind of move on. But regardless, I think there are things we can discuss that kind of are interesting, if nothing else, you know, for the audiences of these platforms.
I've not seen a ton of the fanboyism because I think I've just curated my timeline away from that.
It's good.
But I have really enjoyed like Stephen Totilo, Rebecca Valentine, Tom Warren. Like, I've enjoyed people that are transcribing. No, you're not a fan of Tom? I like Tom Warren. But I've been enjoying.
You can see he's in the beat, you know.
I haven't caught that, but I mean, like, I will say it moves fast, and I'm not checking.
Also, to me, I think he's like the worst one.
Really?
I really don't like him much.
I think Tom,
I don't have much respect.
Tom obviously has a huge audience with The Verge, right? Massive audience, and he's obviously covering it because he knows it's getting attention, right? It's his job to cover it. But he definitely has a foot in a camp, right? And he makes that pretty damn clear.
Does he? I have not caught that, but I haven't seen everything.
And that's why, like, if like, I would think if you're in the Xbox like side of things, if that's where you're probably doing most of your gaming, you're like, oh yeah, he's a good chap. Yeah, all right. He seems pretty balanced. And over here, I'm like, he's wording it in such a way.
I've not caught that.
It's clever wording. It's like, I know what you're doing, dude. I get it. You have a side, and again, this is your
and it's his audience,
and it's his audience. Yeah, so he's playing to it. But
Derek Strickland was the other one.
I like Derek Strickland a lot. I think he's been doing tremendous work.
Yeah, there's a lot of good people talking about it. But yeah, and I think, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, just from my perspective, my personal perspective, right? And then obviously listening to Hoag's thoughts on kind of the case itself, it seems pretty clear that, FTC doesn't really have a strong case, at least to me.
Even as a PlayStation guy, I'm like, they convinced me. I'm like, yeah, I feel like they need this.
Surprisingly weak, given the time that they had to prepare.
Yeah.
That stood out to me, and it felt like, and then maybe it's just me, but like it felt like they were just trying to be as obnoxious as possible. I don't mean that as a fanboyism. I mean like they're trying to make it an obnoxious process for major companies to merge. That's what I feel like. They're trying to make it difficult for big entities to merge. That's how it seemed to me, because the argument fell a touch flat. At least that was kind of my armchair analysis of it. But I've enjoyed hearing from Derek and Steven and Rebecca and Tom, but I did not catch that stuff, so I guess I'll be wary of it. I've enjoyed that when I've opened it up, because I've seen information, not YouTuber speculation, right? Like it was information to find out that Indiana Jones was going right. Indiana Jones is exclusive, not surprising, but informational. The revenue sharing on Xbox, having to negotiate a different deal than PlayStation, that is information. I enjoyed those revelations. Like that is surprising news to me versus, maybe not surprising, but that is news to me, informational news versus speculatory. Well, they're going to bring Hexen back, and Steven or Bobby Kotick, he punched a kid at this, like it's just I want information. Although but you feel like Bobby did probably punch a kid, right?
Yeah, he probably did punch a kid.
Worse.
Yeah. Steve, what's up, man? Good to see Steve in the chat.
What up?
Over at SG.
But I'm sorry, I totally cut you off because you were about to say something. You said FTC's been making a pretty lousy argument. We agreed, and
I just think that I think that in what I've seen, and kind of as Luke just kind of said, it seems like FTC wasn't super well prepared. It seems like their argument is kind of flimsy. I think the discussion, they've tried to frame as like Nintendo's not part of the console market is absurd. Like I don't even see how you kind of make those types of arguments. That said, I was trying to catch up before the show tonight, just because it's very easy to read through these things that we're all following and to say FTC's doing a poor job on their side. But from what I understand, anyone can correct me, listening, again, talking to Hoag, we're having a separate conversation about this, but he said that basically, and I think Aid said this in the chat, is like all the FTC has to really do is see doubt, right? Like this is Microsoft's case to win in this kind of hearing, if you will. They have to be the ones to really kind of push down, and it feels like they've done that, right? But he is still personally putting it like a 50-50 that this injunction either gets passed or blocked, either way. And I think that despite the FTC, from our perspective as gamers, not doing a fantastic job, it's not us they have to appeal to. It's a single judge.
And that said, though, like the judge today, she seemed pretty like, is there a deal for Call of Duty on PlayStation? Like, is this all what it kind of boils down to?
She seemed pretty direct towards the FTC of like, what is your argument here? Like, what, like, how is, I think one of the direct quotes was, I'm not interested in Sony. How does this harm consumers? Yes. And seemingly trying to drive to the point of FTC hasn't made a good case as to why this harms consumers.
Absolutely. And I mean, they made a great case as to why it harms Sony, but like, how does it harm like you and I? Well, I have to go out there and buy a Series S. Okay. Like that's it. I don't see the FTC's arguments as strong at all. In fact, I think out of all the arguments, I feel like the CMA's is probably the strongest one, and even that one's flimsy as well. So to me, I see this as a PlayStation gamer going, it's gonna suck for me. because I'm gonna lose out on whenever the next Diablo thing hits and whatever the next, I don't know. And that's the thing, like after Diablo, what is there for me? Crash game, whatever. That's gonna suck, but I have an Xbox, so I'll just play it there. I'm not destroyed by this at all. I was pretty surprised at a few things. One, the Call of Duty stuff. To see where Microsoft's place is currently in the field, like without all the, what we try to say on the trophy room is like the console war ain't that tight, y'all. Like it's a pretty, PlayStation is pretty far and ahead. Like it's almost 2-1. I think Xbox is around 21 million. PlayStation, as of looking right now, 38.5. And to me, yeah.
You're talking about console sell-through?
Console sales. Yeah.
I didn't see that number anywhere.
Yeah.
But I had a different take on that. So come back to me when you're done making your point.
Sure. So I was just like, oh, wow. Even with Microsoft having way better messaging, way better marketing this time around, we're still seeing a pretty heavy slant towards PlayStation. And coming to, like the conversations with Bobby and Microsoft of Bobby Kotick going, listen, the vast majority play on PC and PlayStation. We're either going to take 80-20 or we're going to not even put this game on your platform. That conversation surprised the heck out of me. I don't know if it did for any of you guys.
It did. I didn't see the console numbers thing. You were telling me about it earlier while we were playing Diablo. Such a good game. But
so good, dude.
So I haven't seen that in writing anywhere, but it just means I've missed it. To me, I was surprised is not the right word. I guess I'm startled that it's 2-1 already, but also like that's really good if that's the numbers we're looking at, because 20 million is nothing to sneeze at. 21 million is nothing to sneeze at, and Xbox hasn't had a system seller yet. Although I would say you're missing out if you didn't play Halo Infinite's campaign. I would say you're missing out if you didn't play Forza. But like the reality is their system seller hasn't happened. But meanwhile, Horizon, Spider-Man, Gran Turismo. What's that? God of War. Thank you. I think it makes good sense, right? We haven't seen Xbox's system seller, system mover.
No, comes out in 2 months and 3 days.
Ooh, he's got a counter. I like that. So I was encouraged is not the right word. I guess happy to know that it's doing well because it's ahead of Xbox 360 and obviously ahead of Xbox One without a system seller, but also like at the same time. So I was a dual perspectives there.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I think I think the easiest way to put it without making it sound so lopsided, right, is that they are both doing extremely well comparative to their former success. PlayStation 5 is selling at a record pace. It just is, right? And they've successfully carried, even despite the fumbles they had with PS5, right? They've successfully carried that momentum of the PS4 generation into the PS5 generation and just taken continued to have that stranglehold in the global market versus some specific markets. Whereas Xbox is not only selling consoles well, but their overall revenue is up as well. In fact, one of the things I was literally mid-writing an article on Xbox that I hope to post tomorrow, actually, about some of the things from LA. And one of the things Spencer said in LA, which I think was reiterated here, is that their last quarter was the highest quarter of revenue for Xbox in Xbox history outside of holiday quarters. So like if you followed the tracking for both PlayStation and Xbox, they're both breaking their own records. So even though PlayStation, but I think that also puts into perspective that Xbox is more focused on revenue, right?
Yeah.
And they talked a lot about MAU. We've talked about monthly active users previously. They're really focused on that right now. Matt Booty talked about it. Whereas PlayStation is still in the model, as we know, of sell-through. And, they're focused on player counts, of course, and PlayStation Plus subscribers. But I think that's a long-winded way, as I usually do, to say that they're both doing extremely well. But it just does emphasize the point that PlayStation, when it comes to console sales, they have a stranglehold.
Yeah.
That said, Switch kills them both.
Yeah.
So, and
Switch is not part of the gaming market, Ains.
That's true.
I mean, saw it on the internet.
I mean, we joke about that, right? But I think when you're talking about, obviously, you guys know this, I'm not making any sort of point, but when you're talking about something like this, like there's a console on the market that costs money that you play games on, it's part of the market. It's that simple. The power doesn't matter. You can buy a $500 PC, you can buy a $10,000 PC. Still a PC that plays games. Yeah. So it's such a stupid argument, but anyway, I don't know where we were going with that, but I agree with you that Kotick throwing his weight around with Call of Duty was interesting to hear, that he won 10% more revenue on the Xbox side because of the lower player base. And you can hate Kotick all you want. That's business. That's how it works.
I mean, I could take it somewhere with Matt Booty going, like, they were talking about like what games from Bethesda stay, which games from Bethesda go, and it really just seems like any game that is a single player game is going to exclusively to Xbox. Which, sure, why not? Why wouldn't you want Elder Scrolls to be exclusive on your platform? Like, it's a no-brainer. But he talked about like how, you know, these games need to have a 10 million player base for it to remain fiscally sound for them to keep these games up. That's something I found interesting as well. I don't know, Luke, if like you've heard anything like that, of like we finally got to understand what is kind of the metric for success for one of their big AAA games.
I don't know what the metric of success is for them. It does sound like revenue.
Idea.
Yeah, I think revenue is the idea. That's what it is, and it would make sense. Single player, exclusive, multiplayer, as many places as possible. Which I love that idea. The idea that more people would jump in on the Sea of Thieves, more people would jump into Halo, the next Gears, whatever. Fine. Like Microsoft was experimenting with Halo Infinite, and for all the problems, they were trying to have their cake and eat it too by being by selling consoles and having it available in multiple places for people to try. Like, imagine if Halo Infinite was on PlayStation, right? The multiplayer portion. Imagine if Sea of Thieves was on PlayStation. Imagine if The Last of Us Factions is day and date PC. You know what I'm saying? Like, exactly. Like, multiplayer where you can bring more people in is enticing. And I like a world where, all right, you want to play single player, you got your Xbox for Avowed, for Clockwork Revolution, for Starfield, for the next Halo Infinite or a Halo single player, cool. But multiplayer, Sea of Thieves, consistently grounded, like I like that idea. I'm sorry.
No, Luke, finish your point. Sorry.
Well, I mean, Joe and I have played games together pretty regularly since pandemic, and 90% of the time he's on PlayStation. I mean, unless it's Sea of Thieves or Halo. You know, it's Fortnite, it's COD, it's Diablo. We're just playing cross console and like rock on.
It's funny because when we used to, when did we start cast? Like 3-4 years ago? I don't actually know now.
18 years ago. Yeah,
I've been cast co-oping for 47 years at this point.
But I remember us having conversations around when we first started talking about, like, remember the whole debacle with Minecraft and PlayStation saying like, we don't want the audience. I forget the actual phrasing, but it was something about like the crossplay may harm we got to watch out for the kids on PlayStation. You remember that deal? Yeah. But it feels like not that long ago we were talking about the prospect of being able to just play on whatever platform you want and playing our games together. And we don't really realize inherently, because it happens slowly, but now we're at a place where you just described, where the vast majority of the major AAA games you can just play wherever you want, right? Which is awesome. That's how it should be. But I think the point, Luke, that I wanted to touch on that you were making is about the Xbox ecosystem is I too like that they have a strong focus on ongoing multiplayer experiences, because that's where I get a lot of my enjoyment. And I've always loved that about Xbox. They drove the industry forward with Xbox Live. They drove the industry forward with Halo. They drove the industry forward with app support on the 360, party chat, all these things, right? And I've always lived in that world. And what I like now is, over the next few years, what we're seeing is Xbox has recognized that they do those things really well, and they have, I won't say failed, but they haven't done as well on the single player narrative blockbuster type experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
PlayStation's the complete opposite. They've made their bank on the single player, story experience. They failed a lot of times on the multiplayer front, and now we have Xbox investing heavily into first party or single player content, which we've seen. Yep. And we have PlayStation investing heavily into live service content, which they obviously have yet to deliver, but we'll see. But my point being is that they both recognize their weaknesses, and because the industry is growing and they're both succeeding so well from a revenue perspective, they're more fully featuring both of their ecosystems. So no matter where you play and live, it's really cool to see.
It's funny because the stuff you listed, Party Chat, Halo, literally twin stick first person shooters,
Xbox
Live, smart delivery, crossplay, maybe not us. What I mean?
Crossplay on console, they did.
Crossplay console, play anywhere, like a lot of initiatives Xbox is responsible for, but without that single player narrative driven experience, for all their initiatives that have worked well, the shift is there, and deservedly so in a lot of ways.
When they were talking a bit about Starfield, I should have pulled up the quote, and they were talking about like, so how do you feel about they asked Jim Ryan like very, how do you feel about Starfield being exclusive on Xbox? And he's just like, I have no problem with it. That's the nature of the game. Like,
he had no problem with it. He said he didn't like it, but that's the nature.
He didn't like it, but
it is what it is.
Yeah.
And his argument is like, is they're gonna do something similar where they say one thing with Activision and then do something similar with Bethesda. But even then I'm like, and isn't that the point? Like, so to me, I see this as the FTC doing what they can to protect PlayStation, not so much the consumer. And this is coming from the PlayStation guy. So that said, I wanted just to switch on over to one thing that I found interesting. We had a little bit of fun with this on the trophy room, and I want to bring it over here, but just a different little slant. Xbox went around to a lot of people and went, hey, we would like to buy you for money, please. Two of those people in particular was Square Enix. Very interesting, because they've been the talk of the town of the them being the next one to be bought, and Sega. And Sega's just like, hey, no, listen, we have, they're a very important partner, and I think they say that Xbox sees the most value in most value in Sega more than
that came out
any
today.
of their competition. Yeah. So like nothing but very kind words.
Yeah.
Which one excites you more?
Sega. Yeah.
Why is it? Because like to me, I'm like, if like this deal closes and tomorrow Xbox is like, hey, we bought Sega, I feel nothing.
So
I'd be like, okay, good.
Happy to address this, and then I want Ames to jump in because I think his relationship with Sega is different.
I'm an old head Sega head, so I mean my answer is easy, but go ahead.
Call me a born again Sonic fan, because Sonic Frontiers had me go back and play Mania, play Origins, playing Origins Plus right now, Generations. Shoot, I even dove into Sonic Forces. I went on a Sonic kick, and then I went back and thought about all my Dreamcast days that I loved. And the reason I think
they're gonna stop you there. When you said born again Sonic fan, I just heard Luke get like being baptized, going, "I ain't a Mario fan no more. I don't need Mario no more,
dude." Yeah,
I am delivered.
I know.
I don't like plumbers. I like hedgehogs.
Is it hedgehog or elephant come October? And it's gonna be hedgehog for me. I'll probably sneak that elephant. Don't you worry. So the thing about Sega to me now at this point, apart from Sonic the Hedgehog, which was a mascot platformer that I think Xbox could use because they're not using Banjo like they should. They need an Xbox platform. I consistently don't understand that. But Ains, I direct this towards you because you are the old Sonic fan.
Sega fan.
Pardon me. Sega has a really good catalog via Atlas of JRPGs. And while Xbox made a strong attempt at getting Final Fantasy into Game Pass, getting Square Enix titles like Kingdom Hearts into Game Pass, and they've done a good job with Yakuza and the spinoffs, getting into Game Pass. It seems to me more and more that Square Enix is leaning towards being console specific on PlayStation, and maybe it's not as vile as we hate Xbox. Maybe it's literally that revenue share that Bobby Kotick was talking about, right? And maybe Square Enix stuff just isn't worth paying 80-20 versus 70-30. Who knows? But what the acquisition of Sega would do is bring with it an audience, a JRPG, a Japanese element to their catalog that they are currently absent. I love this current Xbox that I saw at the showcases, where they were clearly strengthening their relationships with Capcom, strengthening their relationships with Sega and Atlas. What is it? Metaphor,
Persona 5,
Fantasio.
Yeah, and none of those are my games, but the audience is there, and then it's a gap in Xbox's catalog. So I liked that. And then not for nothing, I do enjoy Sonic games. I just do. I love that. I really loved Frontiers. I liked a lot of the 2D stuff I'm playing.
Shut your mouth, Luke. Now I want to go. Now I want to go.
No, I'm not done. I'm stoked for Sonic Superstars. And what is with October? Leave it alone.
It's September and October.
Just knock it off.
Ridiculous.
Please.
Yeah, they're absurd.
I'm begging.
I was like,
what about you?
I said,
AIDS.
Yeah, I won't get into October.
No, about Sega.
Yeah. No. I was gonna go down a trail of October, and I was like, no, I'll leave it alone. On Sega, yeah, I mean, part of me obviously is the old school Sega head. I mean, anyone who knows the history of the consoles knows that the OG Xbox was like kind of like the Dreamcast big brother coming onto the stage and everyone rooting for the underdog, to take on PlayStation at the time. But outside of that history, I grew up with Sega. I think the most important things nowadays is that Sega went through a really tough period, late 2000s or so. They merged with Sammy. But lately, past few years, right, they've really kind of turned a corner, in my opinion. And I think Luke's right about Sonic. Sonic is kind of seeing a resurgence. Atlas is on fire. Like, forget about it. They're on fire. And I think Like a Dragon was phenomenal. Like a Dragon, I'm not even going to get into their numbering system, but the sequel to Like a Dragon is going to be, I'm sure, phenomenal as well. You have things, dormant IP, I think, are really important, which is part of the reason Activision comes up to is just the wealth of IP ownership that comes with Activision. You get that with Sega as well. There's a lot of things with the kind of first party umbrella that Xbox brings to the table and all the developers they've hired over the past 5-6 years or so. You could really start to do work with. I'll shout out Phantasy Star, one of my favorite classic JRPGs, and just having the capability to have a section of that type of game in the Xbox first party umbrella would be huge for them because it's absent today, right? Yeah. I love what we're seeing about what we saw in the showcase this year, Xbox first party. I love what they're developing. I prefer Western RPGs anyway, so I'm in heaven. But there's plenty of people who adore Japanese role-playing games. They're huge in the marketplace. And I just think that between the action games, mascot games, dormant IP, JRPG, it could be a really big win. Now, some of that could also be said for Square Enix, right? It's very fair. But I think Square's in a really weird place right now. Final Fantasy 16 is seemingly doing very well. And I don't, that's one specific game. But if you look at the business reports out of Square Enix, you look at where their drive and their investments are into NFT, into these kind of weird marketplaces, they're all over the place and they're not performing well from a corporate perspective. So Sega, if you asked me 5 years ago, I would have said Square Enix, like without a doubt. You asked me now, I would say Sega, bar none. There just seem to be on a better curve with better kind of long-term viability, in my opinion. Now, the last thing I'll say is,
I'm sorry.
No, the last thing I'll just say is Final Fantasy itself is it's an IP that is, has few peers, right? Yeah. But what that means, in terms of comparisons to sale price, IP value, all those other things, I have no idea. But still, I'd still say Sega.
I think to go off Luke's point, because I've been yelling about this for literally years. It's like when people are like, why doesn't Square make Xbox games? It's like, cause man, like take a look at the Kingdom Hearts 3 numbers. Like that sold more than like 80% on PS4 to Xbox One at the time. Like there's a reason. It's like it seems like Square wants the safety net of Game Pass to kind of be the reason or kind of pay off that development portion for Xbox, or else they just don't want to do it because they feel like they're losing money making a port for an audience that obviously doesn't care for them the way that I think a lot of hardcore Xbox fans want them to. So on that portion, I always want to shake people. I think with the Activision deal and seeing Bobby going, listen, we'll pull Call of Duty. It's like, well, now we can understand why maybe Square is more apprehensive of putting another Final Fantasy on an Xbox or whatever have you. That being said, I also see Sega as a huge benefit to Xbox. And I would say, even to me, excuse me, it's a bigger deal than Activision is, because all of a sudden Xbox now has like the JRPGs that, people really want and that are very important to PlayStation. Like, Persona is huge. And its importance and its impact and lineage on PlayStation means something. And that would actually, I think, drive people to maybe go out there and buy an Xbox more than ever. You take a look at Sonic. Xbox needs a platformer. They need something that speaks to kids.
They have a platformer. They're just not using the goddamn thing. Sorry.
Keep the bird in the backpack. I'm like, I can't say that. But Sonic is bigger than ever, and why not use that and leverage it to your advantage as well? So to me, Sega makes a whole lot of sense. But I also go to this huge list that was like 100 plus developers, publishers, you name it, the Xbox wanted to pick up. I don't know. Have any of you guys seen that list?
I did. By the way, shout out to Everborn in the chat. You said Sonic and he came running.
Yeah. Everborn and I, we bonded on Asante's show. We're both Sonic fans.
Oh yeah, Everborn's the biggest Sonic fan I know. What's up, man? Good to see you.
Is there one company on that list that like your eyes wide and going, that would be a great pick for Xbox? That would get me excited.
I would need to have it.
Honestly, I think Bungie was the one that jumped out to me.
Yeah.
It was a big surprise to me when Bungie signed with PlayStation, and obviously their deal is a little more unique in that they have independent publishing rights, and the games can stay on all platforms. It's maybe not independent publishing, but I know the games are staying all platform, etc. But I thought that if Bungie was going to sign anywhere, it would have been with Xbox. That was a surprise to me. But no, I don't think
Bungie. Don't they cause headaches?
I mean,
is that anecdotal? I do not know, and I am not trying to spout misinformation. Is it true that Bungie is difficult to work with? For like first party stuff?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, Both of you are baffled by this, so I'm thinking that must be just some fanboy mess that I saw.
Yeah, it's some fanboy mess that you probably created on an
Okay, got it. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
But I think, and funny enough, Aid just said in the chat too, IOI was interesting.
Yes, that's who I was. I got the list now.
Yeah, so IOI, I think, we know obviously Hitman and stuff, but they're working on the James Bond game. So you start to think about, we've talked before a lot on the show about IPs in terms of, in fact, I ranted last week about popular IPs, right? And being annoyed by them. But you start to think of things like James Bond, Indiana Jones, right? They're not superheroes, but they're big, recognizable, decades-long celebrated IPs. That could have been really interesting as well. And IOI is obviously talented. Hitman 3 is an incredible game, which they've continued to support successfully for years. So that would have been cool.
Yeah.
Thunderful would have been... Well, IOI was my first. Now that I've got him in front of me, would have loved the idea of Thunderful, but as a publisher. But I have a good relationship with Thunderful. I do a lot of interviews for them, and but I love like the Steam World games. I really love the Gunk. I thought that would have been really cool.
And that makes a lot of sense because then you see Sony use or wield Devolver to be like this kind of extra, like this phantom limb that they use for indies. So it would be really cool for Xbox to go, you know what? what if we forget the ID at Xbox? What if we just throw that all into Thunderful, and Thunderful is our publisher that focuses solely on indie games?
Did you just say forget ID at Xbox? How dare
how dare probably not. ID Xbox has over 5,000 games in development.
ID at Xbox is awesome, man.
Yeah, and they just signed.
The name. I just hate.
It's a bad name, but they just signed.
Leave the name alone. The department or division has been a resounding success.
Well, I'm just saying. As a PlayStation person, the name's dumb. Yes, Luke, I'm listening.
ID at Xbox also developed their developer acceleration program, which does a good job at bringing in marginalized game creators or marginalized developers, thank you, into the program so that they get more spotlight. I've talked to a lot of developers about that program and how it's been useful to them. ID at Xbox is fantastic. I agree. The naming convention is bad, but the developer acceleration program, 5,000 games in development, Sarah Bond literally able to go on stage and talk about its productivity and its effectiveness, the work that Chris Charla does over there. I will stand for the ID at Xbox program, and it's brought in some heavy hitters for sure. So I think that's worth showing.
Alex, shout out to Alex in the chat, Alejandro. He's one of our reviewers. He calls out IOI had that rumored exclusive Xbox fantasy RPG. That is still going on. That's Project Dragon, and that is exclusive to Xbox, at least timed. So that was actually on a list in these court documents.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm very excited for what IOI, like, ever since Hitman 3, they can do no wrong. I'm on board with whatever they do. I'm like Dan's little, like, cousin on the show, his little nephew.
We call him Agent 48 now.
Uncle Dan likes, but I will go, like, I haven't tried that was it the roguelike mode? No. But that said, like,
no, not every game needs roguelike elements. Like, we can stop that now. Not every game.
Yeah. Not every game, but IOI caught my eye. Housemarque caught my eye. I'm like, whoa! I know these court documents are old, but, like, back off. The one that I thought would be a no-brainer that gets me excited would be Remedy, because Remedy just does so many awesome and weird things. Ains, you're cracking up.
I'm sorry.
We heard his wife's voice.
My wife is right there. She was talking, and I unmuted, and she was still talking, and I said, "Stop talking."
Wow, we got a lot of insight into the household. Man,
Mrs. Bowden, would you like to come on and just
air your drink? The bar's over there. She was just grabbing a drink.
Okay. Yeah. I bet she needs a lot of them living with you. Let me tell you.
Oh boy, here we go.
Anyone else notice Ains' hand starting to raise like this a little bit?
I was like,
whoa, don't do it, Ains.
Oh no, this is a family show. But yeah, no, Remedy would be that would be a really big get for them. And, like, just bring them home. Just bring them home.
I look. Remedy is one of they punch above their weight. What? Why is he laughing?
I'm sorry. Sorry to the chat just said, wow, I didn't realize we'd be seeing Ains' divorce start live tonight.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, goodness.
Remedy and IOI both punch above their weight, I think, in terms of what they create and the quality that they put out. And that's not to go unnoticed. Xbox could use some studios that punch above their weight. I think Ninja Theory, we learned that they, what was it?
117
million. Also 117, and that was funny. But what a get, right?
Yeah,
and
big time.
I know everybody, and Joe has said this to me before too. Like, it only proves how valuable like Insomniac was as a pickup, and a few other studios in history. But, like, 117 million, not bad. Bringing in Ninja Theory, like, Hellblade looks like it's going to deliver. Yeah. Man, I hope it does, because I want to see some combat. I need to see some combat. Y'all made me worried with that incredible trailer, but that trailer was slow. I want some combat. So, I
think it'll be fine. But I think those insights too around the.
Did you play it?
Hellblade, what?
Hellblade 2?
No, they didn't have that to play.
Gotcha.
No. They didn't. In fact, they didn't. They had Phantom Liberty to play, Cyberpunk, And they had a bunch of the upcoming ID at Xbox games to play, but they didn't have any of the big.
Change the name.
Indie developers at Xbox.
There was going to be, damn it, there was a point I was going to make and I forget now. Sorry.
That's my fault. Hey, I got something to say. I mean, my buddy Ryan has something. Jim Ryan, he's got something to say.
Good old Lion Ryan.
He's lying through his teeth here, folks. We know it. You know it. We all know it. All right. My boy Jim says that publishers unanimously dislike Xbox Game Pass. I thought, let's put a little spice in here. We've been too chummy for too long. Unanimously dislike.
Unanimously dislike. And I love that multiple publishers have come out this week and said, hey,
that.
by the way, we love Xbox Game Pass.
I saw that.
I think it's real neat.
Like, we're not making this comment for any reason, but we like it.
We like it. Yeah.
Can I tell y'all, I have a privileged position that my whole shtick is I interview developers.
Yeah.
I've talked to devs big and small, and every single one of them has sung Game Pass praises. Every single one. I talked to my 8th Xbox specific developer or exclusive developer this year, and very much he was like, I wish I was on Game Pass. He wishes he was on Game Pass.
Yeah.
That's an indie game, but then I've done the same thing with AAAs and everywhere in between, and they all want to be on Game Pass. Guaranteed money, guaranteed audience. Like,
I think it was especially hilarious that he makes that comment when literally a PlayStation first party game in the show is on Game Pass now. 2 years in a row. Like, what?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like,
yeah.
So good old Lion Ryan.
Did they he did get caught in some fibs, which was interesting. But
that was the biggest one, I think.
There was that one, and then there was one at the very beginning that didn't make sense.
What
Call of Duty, how important it was, how he was talking to regulators, and then it's coming out as like, no, it's not an exclusive.
Yeah, it's like, we'll be fine. We'll be more than okay.
Yeah,
we'll be fine. He's like, whoa. Let me say, that was just the first conversation, but in August, and then I had one that what was it like? It rang alarm bells at Sony or something like that. Yeah.
And that was a weird email exchange. Did it come out ever, the question of like having exclusive things on Xbox that wouldn't be on PlayStation? Did it ever get brought up that like, well, that they do that exactly? There's special things you get in COD on PlayStation you don't get on Xbox.
I think they just mentioned that. Something about like a Christmas skin in Call of Duty.
Gotcha. Okay. Because I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff that Xbox doesn't get that PlayStation gets in terms of perks. Right. And so I thought that was interesting. I didn't know if it came up at all. So
yeah.
Nubelex was asking publishers or game developers because there's a difference. And I was just saying that really both to some degree. I know you've talked to more developers than me, Luke. I've talked to some developers, a few that have sung Game Pass's praises, but some publishers have sung its praises as well. Now, that's not to say it's universal praise, right? Yeah. I have seen at least 1 or 2 comments from publisher or dev saying, Game Pass was maybe a mistake for their game. And I think that should be expected. I don't think Game Pass is a one size fits all platform, right? Thank you. Solution's a better word.
Gotcha.
It's a solution for depending on the game, the release date, the budget, a whole number of factors that has to be accounted for. Have to be accounted for.
Can you put Rob's question in, Ains?
Sure.
Yes.
Yep. Bear with me. I'm not. Here you go. Got it.
So Rob asked. He said, "What are the top 3 reasons I've heard from devs saying they like Game Pass?" So there's several reasons. The first is guaranteed monies. If you're a small game developer, you get guaranteed monies, and if your game costs $20,000 to make and you're getting $100,000, well, then you've made your money 5 times over. That's a pretty common one. The other one is a guaranteed install base and accessibility via cloud, via PC, via console. Like, you have options for ways to reach your consumers. The Xbox team will help you port, which is interesting. And you'd have to go back to the Thunderful interview, but as a publisher, Thunderful enjoyed it as well. That was the Thunderful head that I talked to about SteamWorld as a franchise.
SteamWorld Dig, right?
SteamWorld Dig, but then there's the new SteamWorld not Heist. The new.
I think it is. I think you're right.
I interviewed him on a new SteamWorld.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a
The
new
new
Steam
World
World
Game.
game coming.
Yeah. And then I've had a number of Thunderful developers on and said the same. This is interesting though, boys. My understanding is that Game Pass is pretty much spoken for in terms of the availability of slots through the rest of this year and then some. Like the games are already decided.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah,
I have heard
that would make sense.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
Developers have told me that. To be clear, it's not like not on Reset Era or anything mess like that.
That makes sense though, because part of the conversation around Game Pass that Xbox leadership has expressed is curation, game curation, and making sure that the games that do enter the service get their time in the spotlight, right? We hear all the time about how many games release on Steam, and this is one of the points they made early on in Game Pass is that X number of games release a month on Steam, right? But there's so many games just get completely lost in that, and they wanted to make sure they were not overloading Game Pass to the point where like a game would release and nobody would get eyes on it, right? So they have a very fine line they try to walk with the amount of releases, the timing of those releases, and to ensure that the deals they make obviously are beneficial to not only us as subscribers, but also the publishers and devs.
It's made it difficult, from what I understand, for smaller titles that need to bump. Like, let's say they need to delay by a month to finish something with the technology team or their port's not going well.
Sure.
It's made it harder for smaller teams to kind of wedge themselves in to a slot on Game Pass, which is interesting to hear about as well. But I would like to see Xbox and PlayStation both make Wednesday Indie Day or something so that you can put visibility and spotlight.
They used to do that with Xbox Live Arcade.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm calling back to. There are ways to bring spotlight out because like Game Pass just delivered a slew of really good titles this past week. From Need for Speed Unbound, Fist, and I'm blanking on the third. Bramble Mountain.
I think so, yeah.
Yes.
All those games deserve spotlight, getting drowned out by all the other news, and so that's a bummer to see that happening. I know a lot of cool stuff about Game Pass. That's been a fun dive for me lately.
Alex said one that I've heard as well. He said confirmation of game devs also getting extra revenue for amount of downloads. So I think there are incentives in some of the contracts based on how many players engage with the game over a certain period. As I understood it, Luke, correct me if you've heard something different. As I understood it, it's some of those deals were made around play time. How long are people engaging with your game as a total amount of time?
I last heard that last year. I have not heard that recently. But that might mean I'm not asking the right question
either. Yeah, it was a little while ago.
Okay.
I do want to bring up, and I'm sorry, I'm going to totally butcher your name, but I'm going to just shorten it to Aid, who writes it, saying, came up day one, the FTC lawyer said, imagine having something like a skin exclusive to Xbox.
I know.
Did that happened? Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. They actually,
the food. Oh, my God. There was like a really funny thing too. Like one of the lawyers were just like, and you made Indiana Jones an exclusive, like you renegotiated. Like, how's that fair? And I think like Phil Spencer or whoever was on the stand was just like, PlayStation has Spider-Man. It's their top selling game exclusive to PlayStation and PC. Again, like it's just like this is a kangaroo court. It's a circus. It's so embarrassing because this is just.
Who are you embarrassed for?
By the way, you pronounce
whoever was the FTC guy.
He prefers his name to be pronounced Ade, and believe me, you're not alone. I have asked him personally in DMs multiple times because I always mess it up, so I always apologize to him. But Ade is what he asks.
Ade, we appreciate you. Don't mind. Don't mind.
He's
Joseph
awesome.
Moran.
I can't pronounce.
And I apologize for my friend Joe. Ade.
Joe's real dumb, but Ade, we appreciate you.
I can't even pronounce Luke's last name. Keep on saying Boar. It just comes out.
I just say low whore. He's a low whore.
Dude, can I tell you, there are actual adults who cannot pronounce my name. And I'm like, it's 4 letters.
It's four letters.
What don't you get? It's so confusing.
I don't know. And we need
it's the
features.
H. It's throwing me off. By golly J's. Let's see. What was the next spicy thing?
Nissa said in the chat just now. Nissa said here with the CEO of Microsoft Satya Nadella, by the way, said about exclusives. And yeah, basically he quoted saying, he would prefer if there were no exclusives from a console perspective, but that's just the world that we live in. Yeah. I'm paraphrasing, but you get the point. And I thought it was kind of funny. I mean, that's what Nadella's going to say, right? I mean, PlayStation has made their bank. Switch has made their bank on those big named exclusives. Of course, if you take away the exclusives in a fantasy world, the differentiator between platforms becomes hardware and ecosystem, right? And I think unless you were heavily tied to trophies, Joe, or others, right? I mean, from an ecosystem perspective, Xbox has a lot of advantages, especially, and both have a lot of advantages over Nintendo in that space. So obviously that's what Nadella is going to say. Yeah.
And Nadella is right 10 years, 15 years from now when it's just an app. When it's just an app, your exclusives are available in only the Xbox app. You can play Elder Scrolls 6 when you load up Xbox on your Samsung TV or whatever. That is coming. So maybe that's a way to interpret it, because the box will be here for only so long.
Yeah, I mean, it's Microsoft, right? They're the premier player in tech in the entire world, right? So of course they have the capability to say things like, well, exclusive software is less important to us. We'd prefer if there weren't, because they know from a technical perspective, they can walk circles around the competition.
Yep.
Yeah. I found that was the second funniest quote. I'm like, of course you're going to say that. And of course you're going to blame something. Like, exclusives have mattered since, really like the age of like Sega v like Nintendo. It's always been a part of it. But when you take a look at like Microsoft's business model and how they operate, they very much do work with everybody. So like exclusivity is actually something that they're not really used to, because they typically don't do that anymore. Like, to them, it's such an old strategy to them. So at like front facing, me, if I was a PlayStation fanboy, I'd be like, oh, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Then you take a step back going, oh yeah, wait, I could pretty much use, things like Word everywhere. They're working with Apple, they're working with Meta on all sorts of stuff. So like, yeah, no, there's actually a lot of truth to what they're saying. So yeah, go for it, Ains.
I was just going to say, I think you actually made a very adept comparison there to something like Word, looking at Microsoft Office, because as anyone who uses that know, it's shifted to a license, just like anything else, an annual license. So has Adobe, so have a lot of software. It's SaaS, right, which is software as a service. And that's essentially where Microsoft was driving. I know where Microsoft was driving with Xbox and Game Pass in general, right, is moving into service delivery outside of kind of physical box delivery, right? It just makes more sense, and it's where the future is, as you pointed out, not only in the gaming industry but in many other industries. So
okay, can we talk? I there's not much left here other than if you want to get into the Matt Booty quote of, PlayStation could buy Sony out of business type of thing.
How much there?
Xbox, you mean? Microsoft, yeah. And it was for 2019, as they're talking about, potential spending once they get into the acquisition deals. Whatever.
Right?
That sounded to me like a guy shooting the shit who's got a big wallet to spend, who's got that full list of studios in front of him, and he's just, off the cuff. That's what that felt like to me. Yeah. I did not overread into it, and I don't think anybody else should be either. One way or the other.
Booty pulling up in that suit?
Woo!
Get it, man.
Oh my God, him and Phil. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I think Steve in the chat was just like, his wife thinks that Matt Booty's attractive, so now he's betting for this thing to fail.
Well, funny enough, when we were in LA, Matt Booty walked by with his wife. And we all just said, "Hey, Matt." He was like, "Hey," but it's the first I'd seen him with his wife. Yeah. But he's generally pretty quiet guy, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's cute.
You have to think about the Microsoft execs that were there for E3 or whatnot. They had to prep for an E3 presentation, sans all Activision Blizzard stuff, where they delivered on all Xbox first party stuff, the third party relationships with Capcom, Ubisoft, and Sega all at once. They had to prep for all that, do their customer relationship stuff in that presentation, meeting people like Ains in LA and stuff, and then less than a month turnaround, go into court. And for everything I'm hearing, they were quite prepped for that. That is a terrifying amount of professionality that I don't ever want to have in life.
Yeah. And the thing is, right, is one, I think they are generally extremely well versed on these things anyway. They just seem to be that type of organization, which is cool. But for a fact, anyone has any kind of insight into this stuff, they prepped for days and many, many, many hours of meetings with their lawyers, with their teams on what to say, what angles to say, what not to say, what not to reference. And they were definitely well prepared, way more prepared on paper, at least from what we've seen than the FTC.
Yeah. So question, because obviously we all think this is going to go through. And since I'm probably not going to, since I probably won't have you guys on the trophy room to talk about this, where do you think both parties go after this deal theoretically goes through on July 18th? Like what do you see like Sony doing?
Appeal.
Please no.
If it goes through, there's going to be some restructuring. I think Sarabon takes over Activision. I think you have some leadership changes over the next 2 years. I think you see one or two IP make a comeback. I mean, the easy go-to answer for fun would be Hexen, right? Because he wore the T-shirt. But I think you have 2 years of readjustment, and I think the real impact comes when the marketing deals are up with Sony and they shift. If it does,
which is this year, by the way, they confirmed that.
So that would mean that the next Call of Duty
next year
could be theoretically marketed with Xbox. And so I think that's when you start seeing the big impacts happening, or in the marketing elements, because the games that any games that Xbox might green light or whatnot will take studio restructuring, and then we'll take probably like portfolio evaluation and any other fancy corporate term that you might have. And then you got to develop the thing. So this is going to be much like Bethesda. Woo, we're all done. And then years and years.
Yeah. Years. 100%. Yeah, I agree. I think acquisitions like this, you're talking about is it 9 studios, 8 studios, 9 studios in total that account for over 10,000 developers. You have a host of hundreds, if not probably into the 1,000 range of actual leadership in various levels of position that would have to be restructured and figure out where they fit in. Just to put into some comparison, I can't go into detail here, right? But my company purchased another company that was about, I want to say 1,500 to 2,000 employees back in 2020. We are still working through that migration as we speak. These things take a very long time, and you're talking about a whole host of things, from location of developers all over the place, what they're working on, IP ownership. You're talking about technical infrastructure. I mean, there's a whole lot of things. You would not, I guess my point being is, you wouldn't see anything change outside of, like Luke said, maybe a marketing deal, right? That's out and customer facing for a time to come, a long time to come. I do think Kotick would take the money and be gone. Yeah. I think. I
mean, even he was just like, yeah, I would never put a game on. He said, I would not. Like, I wouldn't do day and day on Game Pass. I would like he doesn't like the model. And you could just see, like, as he's taking the stand too, he's just like, dude, I just want my money. Can I just go?
Yeah. And there's other shareholders with him that'll be in the same camp, right? Yeah. I mean, just tons of money going around.
We can only hope for a heart attack when it comes to Kotick.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then you've got to think about, okay, do you take someone from the current Xbox leadership to oversee certain operations there? Do you move someone up that they think is promising that's in an Activision today? They're just, those things take a very long time. So you wouldn't see much change. But I do think it is interesting that the marketing deal for Call of Duty on PlayStation ends this year. And obviously that's not being renewed, right? So I would assume that we'll see that on Xbox starting next year, assuming this goes through trial and all that jazz.
Did I picture Kotick's demise while Ains was talking? Yes. Did it fill me with glee? Absolutely. I was just thinking of him right next to a cliff, and he's like, oh, it's happening. Like he's like chowing down on a hot dog, and like he's trying to go for help, and he accidentally shoves his friend Clarence down a goddamn cliff where he deserves, and like you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. It's like they ain't that the dream. Catalina wine mixer.
Talking about Clarence Thomas,
everyone. The Catalina wine mixer.
Fucking Catalina wine mixer. Ade thinks the judge is going to grant the injunction. All right.
Like good or bad?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember the terminology.
I don't know. It's interesting that you got like, again, it's why I love this show, because it gets such insight from both of you guys of how, you know, how shit really gets made. So like when I hear that, because like to me, I think, yeah, you're gonna have a lot of restructuring over at Activision, right? You're gonna have definitely a change in guard, and that comes with, you know, getting used to that position, changing the culture of that company, and, you know, fixing things, streamlining a few things, and getting rid of some redundancies, which is the sad portion of it. But then like I think about like Sony, right? I think about Jimmy, you know. It always goes back to Jimmy. He's sitting in his office
in a silver chair holding a cat, as you think about
him. But like the cat's sad too, dude. Like it's not very well lit, and he's just like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do next? Because Xbox says they're not done after this, right? That
that's the other thing is they made clear that once this is done, that they're still in the market. They're not done. So
and so like
I think that's crazy.
Do you think they go for publishers or studios?
That's a good question. I think they go for another publisher.
Yeah.
Do you think they could pull it off? 3 publishers in a row.
So the only reason why I say that, I think Microsoft wants to go towards publishers because, to me, it's kind of like an anti-Embracer situation. Embracer had like the 130, you know, like developers all over the place, some publishers, some like not, and it was just a mess. If I'm Microsoft, and if I'm Matt Booty on an email chain, I have, you know, whoever's in charge of Activision and Blizzard in charge of those games. I have, you know, the games that I'm in charge of, right? My catalog. And then I have Pete Hines and the team over at Bethesda focus on what they're doing. So like, you don't have to have too much oversight because they're all working kind of, you know, business as usual. The only thing different, they're making Xbox games instead of multi-platform games, if that all made sense.
So here's a question for you guys. Does this change now?
My camera froze again, didn't it?
It did. At least it's a good picture.
Yeah.
Oh, not on the YouTube video. It's not.
Oh, is it not?
Because on the trophy room, I froze like this last night.
Do you think that in the wake of this deal, with the information that came out, Sharpie redacted stuff and otherwise,
I loved it.
I loved that. That could not have been a better analogy for how some of this trial has gone. If anyone doesn't know, some poor intern at Sony was told to redact something. They thought they were doing right. They Sharpied it out. The scanner picked up the numbers behind it. My question is, does the information that's come to light change how deals will get made going forward, or relationships will be built? Like, let's say Remnant 2 was on the possibility of being on Game Pass, or was up for, like, you know, being console exclusive, timed exclusive, the next indie that's timed exclusive. Do you think the information that came out changes any of that going forward?
I don't think
question.
So.
I don't see it changing now.
Yeah, it is a good question, but I genuinely don't think so. I think that at the end of the day, I guess my answer would be none of what we're hearing here is new. It's new to us. It's not new to the industry players.
Okay.
So, right. So I think that they know the important people who make these decisions and who strike these deals in the industry already know this is the stuff that goes down every day for them, because, like we said earlier, this is their job. It's what they do. So I don't think so. I don't think anything changes. I think they're probably, I'd be interested to hear what they think about all of this being public, right? Which is not usually the case. But other than that, I don't think it changes anything personally.
So nobody tries to renegotiate their deal or 80-20 or any of that?
No, I think if anything, like, you know, so
it's still going to have to be based on it's gonna have to be based on their throughput.
Yeah.
You don't renegotiate a deal because someone in court said they're doing something else. I don't think so anyway.
Hey, we heard Bobby got 80-20. Is that true? What's up with that? I think it goes maybe along to what I was trying to say before you cut me off, you bitch. Is
I'll do it again.
Maybe he starts walking around and no, I wouldn't insult you, Ainst.
I would never cut you off, Joe. Anyway,
okay,
were you saying something?
Yeah, I think like PlayStation
go ahead and let him
probably
talk. Okay, he's trying to talk.
Oh, sorry, man. Sorry. I was just trying to finish my point. Go ahead.
This is what it's like to work with Joe, right? We gotta put up with it.
God damn.
No,
I get what
come
Sean
on, we're
was saying.
waiting.
Okay, so PlayStation probably goes to some of those partners and goes, "Hey, what's up?" and maybe throws around some type of money in terms of like investment, like you saw with From Software, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we'll throw you X amount of money, we'll invest into your company this much to kind of make sure that they have that working relationship, that they're not going anywhere. And maybe I would try to talk to Sega as well, because after them so publicly going, yeah, we love Xbox, we think they're great, we think Phil looks good in the suit. Maybe if I'm Jim, I would hobble on over to Sega going, hey man, what about me in the suit? Like I wore a suit too.
I definitely think that to your point, I think PlayStation, if they haven't already, would probably get more aggressive as much as they can in that space, just because it seems to be that way for them now. But who knows? I don't know. You mentioned I think, did you just mention FromSoft?
I did.
Or am I making okay? I was gonna say I'm kind of surprised, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm kind of surprised I didn't see FromSoft or Capcom on any of these discussions, because
From Software was in
FromSoft was on there.
Yeah,
it was noted that they have a relationship. Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. And I said on the trophy room, if that were to happen, we're renaming the show into the Achievement Hall. I am full bore Xbox.
I was going to say, because you talk about Japanese developers that are literally at the top of their game. Capcom and FromSoft are head and shoulders right now.
Yeah, knees and toes
above everyone else. So,
yeah.
By the way, real late super chat, not super chat. Shout out to Strubles and Bits. He became a channel member while we were talking earlier.
Nice.
I missed it because we were in the middle of saying something. So thank you for that. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Very cool.
The last little tidbit. They bought Bethesda in response to PlayStation making all them deals with Bethesda. Do you really buy that? Because I don't.
You don't buy that?
I don't know. I mean, we heard rumblings.
Go for it, Ed. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry, man. We keep jumping over each other. I was just going to say we heard rumblings a couple years ago that we heard rumblings that PlayStation was.
What did you hear?
Attempting to secure Starfield, for their platform. So, who knows? I don't know. I mean, if you're Phil Spencer and you have the long relationship you have had with Todd Howard, and you hear that Starfield, which is going to be a nuke bomb drop of a game, is attempting to be exclusive on PlayStation, and you're in the market to buy IP developers and publishers anyway, why not try to buy Bethesda?
Fair enough. Because I was just like, you bought them for $7 billion. Why couldn't you just go out there and make a better deal with them? That's all I was thinking.
Because now they control. Now they control their destiny and future. Now they don't have to worry about being poached. And Starfield is going to be the game.
I really hope it is. I really hope it is.
I also think, as much as we all talk about
getting
Starfield,
excited.
Rightfully so. Stuff it. I'll mute your ass.
I'm getting excited. I'm about to show the controller. Look at it.
I know, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I'm saving her for Starfield. I'm not turning around.
I think what is overlooked in the Bethesda deal often, and funny enough, I'm writing about this right now, are two things, which is, one, their monthly active user count between Fallout 76, Elder Scrolls Online, and their other titles, which are widely underestimated hugely how big those games are. The other thing is their technology stack. Bethesda had a very strong technology stack, both from an engine and streaming perspective, that Microsoft kind of brought in-house to utilize as well, and it never gets talked about, but that's part of it. Dan is in the chat and has a question for us.
What's up?
He says, Good evening, Mr. Rodriguez, Agent 48. Looks like your mission was successful. Glad to hear it. Question for the panel. What is your confidence level on Xbox producing a steady or even kind of steady stream of content from all of these studios, and why?
I'm going to be real, not very high, but this is now I think Starfield really kicks it off. As Starfield hits, awesome. Hellblade hits, awesome. And then we start seeing it go more and more, but it's like we're a broken record at this point, right? It's like next year we're already getting into that talk of like when things kick off. Like this was supposed to be their year, and hopefully now Starfield really kicks it off. But they're about they take a couple of good swings. One of those swings is great, and then they get a bit of a flub, and then the cycle repeats.
Yeah. So in one of the things that happened in LA, and really, again, you can believe him or not believe him, but Matt Booty was asked this directly in our media briefing, and he talked about 2021 being a good year, right, for Xbox. 2022, he said, look, we under-delivered. I mean, everyone knows that. We own it. And he said pretty clearly that Starfield, to Joe's point, you got Starfield and Forza this fall, right? And Forza is a complete reboot. It's not like a Forza 8, right? This is their long-term racing simulator platform. But he said that, in 2024, they have Hellblade 2, Fable, Flight Sim 2024, and what am I forgetting?
Not Avowed.
Not Avowed.
Towerborn.
No, Avowed too.
Yeah, see, that feels too crowded. What do you got for 2025?
Well, anyway,
we'll find out.
Those he said those 4 games, and he said Sarah and him were going back and forth, and he basically said our goal has always been, and funny enough, Dan and I have talked about this for years now. Our goal has always been a big first party game per quarter, right? 1 game per quarter. And he said, I feel like he said, quote, and I have the exact quote on my phone somewhere, that they feel like this stride will be hit starting at that time. So according to them, if you take them at their word, it starts basically with Starfield.
And I will remind myself included in this, because I sometimes forget, Xbox has produced 1 bad game in this generation. 1 bad one, and that was Redfall.
Crackdown 3.
Rush.
Sir? In this generation.
Hi-Fi Rush.
We made 2 different jokes at the same.
Yeah. Because they put out.
I don't mean that someone that's going to take it too seriously in the comments.
Yeah. Joe said that as a joke. I said Crackdown 3 because Luke unironically likes Crackdown 3, and it's a joke that we run across him all the time.
That's right. That's right.
And people love when you explain the bit.
All right. So
naturally,
you had Forza Horizon 5, you had Halo Infinite, Age of Empires, Flight Sim, you had Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Minecraft, Psychonauts 2, Redfall. 1 bad game in there. None of them the AAA game that needed to dethrone God of War. And so that is acknowledged, right? But the steady stream of content, steady stream is an issue. But the high quality is not. There have been a lot of really good games that they've made. The top tier 90 plus, I'll grant you that one. Forza notwithstanding. The other stuff was all niche. So I'm confident in their ability to get it right in a way that I haven't been before, but I am not so confident to say no doubt. No, I have doubts. I have doubts at their ability to deliver 1 per quarter. Let's get 1 per year, and then we'll talk.
First off, big shout out to Captain Crunch in the chat. I just love the name. I just wanted to shout out
Captain's a regular around here. Cap's cool.
That's right.
What's up, Cap?
That's right.
Captain's my. You know what? I'll get my steelbook and show it to you if you're not careful.
I actually have the Crackdown 3 steelbook too. I got it for $2. Worth it.
I did too, and I got the developer jacket. You remember I got that?
Oh, I don't have that.
I have the developer jacket. I love.
So if it's a developer jacket, were there like 6 of them?
Probably, maybe less. But I liked Redfall also, even though it's not what it needs to be. Interestingly, though, boys, I went in and played a bit of Redfall the other day. The update really helped the AI, and I was like,
play it on PC. It's not. I'm telling you, it's not a terrible game on PC.
Now I see some people in the chat saying that Redfall was released on purpose to help them in this case. Now,
sort of
those comments don't. Now, hey, now those comments may not be backed up by any evidence at all. But if we've seen enough in this world, we know that we don't need evidence to make claims. All right.
That's right. That's right. Clarence, what in the flat earth is that person talking about?
Exactly. And I wholeheartedly believe them now. They said it with confidence and gusto and in all lowercase letters. Why would they lie?
They said,
I'm literally becoming autistic from this vaccine I got recently. It's
okay.
Crazy.
I didn't know where you were going with that one. I was like, uh-oh. Calm down, Gwyneth. Calm down.
Gwyneth, chill. But funny enough, I'm magnetic now, which is weird.
That's crazy. Can we
I like how we answered Dan's question with about 48 other anecdotes along the way. You're welcome. That's what we do here.
Let's take a pause from all the FTC Microsoft mess. Sure. Joe, you're playing Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I am.
Tell me a bit about this.
Dude,
it's too linear.
Okay. It's too linear. There's too many squares. And sometimes I'm fighting balls. What's that about? Dude, I'm loving it. I'm not a Final Fantasy guys. Like y'all know this. I'm not big into it. It's not my franchise. I know I run a PlayStation show. I hear it all the time. But Final Fantasy 16 being, I think, my first numbered Final Fantasy that outside of 7 Remake that I'm playing.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. I've tried them. Don't get me wrong. I tried 15. I was like, this is not great. And a few others. And so this is one I'm planning to beat. I am absolutely loving this combat. When you get to play this game, ooh-wee, it feels really great. Being able to switch off between different magics on the fly and the different abilities that you're able to chain up. It feels really good playing. The cast is stellar. And that's not just because we had Ben Starr on the last 2 episodes ago. He plays a really good role. He's very he's stoic, but he still shows emotion very subtly. It's a really good performance that he has. He's very 3-dimensional. Shout out to Sid, who I think could pull me. Honestly, he's that confident. He's got that much of he's just so cool, dude.
Ralph Innocent is timeless, man.
Dude, and so he's also the old man in Diablo 4. Lorath. So it's both roles he's doing a good job, and Sid he's just owning it. Jill Warwick as well. The whole cast of characters that I've interacted with so far, awesome. The boss fights are superb. I'm on boss fight number big boss fight number 3 right now, and honest to goodness, the first boss fight was so epic. That could have been the finale to any other video game boss fight. It just felt so epic. And even the cutscenes, because I'm not bothered by how many cutscenes there are in this game, because I think Kojima has conditioned me to go, you know what? As long as you're telling an interesting story and I like your characters, I'm going to be in on it.
Can you let Kojima know that?
Yeah, I'll let him. I'll ring him next time, you stupid bitch. Why would you say something so dumb? No one hurts my Kojima, okay? And I pull off the mask, and I'm Jeff Keighley the whole time.
Jeff Keighley pops out of the steel you knock it off!
I could tell by the reflection of your sneakers.
Oh, no! It bounced off the reflection of my forehead. It gave me away. But no, the cutscenes are also stellar. And there are some moments where I'm just you get amped. And I'm not the big anime guy myself, but dude, seeing the big kaiju fights and some of the shit that you're seeing on screen is just so wild that I'm loving it. And the tone as well so far is it is much more mature. And I know it sounds like a tagline, but it's a really good spin on, hey, gather up all your friends and we could do this together type of stuff that you see in Final Fantasy games. They do a very interesting spin on it. So far I'm 15 hours in, so probably the midway point, and I'm surprised how much I really do love it. And the game is just drop dead gorgeous.
It is gorgeous, yeah. So Alex is reviewing it for us. He's about wrapped up, but he says here, Final Fantasy 16 eventually overcomes its early linearity and wonky pacing to become such an excellent character action game, probably the most epic game ever made. 61 hours now at endgame.
Wow.
So I've only played. I played the demo. I had the deluxe edition pre-ordered. Played the demo because Alex, funny enough, recommended. He goes, if you don't know if you're going to like it, just play the demo because progress carries, right?
Yeah.
So I did. I actually really enjoyed it. Opened the deluxe edition. I'm only a few hours in, so I'm not as far as you, Joe. And I agree with a lot of what you said. There's an epic sense of scale to character development so far. Is really well done. There's an epic sense of scale to kind of the world at play, if you will.
Yeah.
They kind of build out that world and the story. So I'm enjoying all that. The cutscenes, I'm usually not one for long cutscenes. Kojima drives me bonkers. But then again, his are pointless and stupid. These ones are actually these ones are actually meaningful. The character development, the character acting is excellent. The cutscene development, even like the framing of the cutscene is really well done. So all of that is really superb. Where I'm struggling, and I'm going to try to overcome it, is the linearity. There is no exploration to be had. There is no RPG really elements to be had
like
here.
My kind of game right there.
Oh, this is loot game through and through. You don't have to think or have a brain. It's perfect for you.
I love it.
And that's the only problem that I have, dude, is like the Square's level design needs to evolve past stages. Everything feels like a stage.
Yeah, like it's like you're playing a level, and they hold your hand through the level. Nothing has been challenging so far. Maybe I'm too early. There's no like upgrading your gear is so shallow. It might as well be like Mario versus Rabbids. In fact, I think Mario versus Rabbids is probably deeper. It's just so it's this really weird for me dichotomy between excellent characters, voice acting, cinematics, and world building, contrasted by really zero in terms of what I would call old school RPG elements that Final Fantasy used to have to at least some degree. So it's tough for me. I'll see if I continue to enjoy it, but I'm going to try.
Yeah, and I would say the levels and they feel like stages it's a lot. Yeah, it's shallow in the RPG department. I don't even characterize it really as an RPG.
No, it's an action adventure game, really.
It really is. And then the next part that I'm not too much a fan of. Geez, when I think we originally heard they took inspiration from Game of Thrones, it's like, yeah, and a little bit too much, down to like we got a big guy that carries people, we got a lady of the night that she does things, like we have a character you can't really trust, maybe, who knows, evil empires, no one's really good here, type of vibe, where I'm like, you could have taken some of that, but it seems like you're putting these characters here and just tweaking them a bit and going, Final Fantasy.
Hope pointed out the same thing. He's like, it's pretty much like direct on to Game of Thrones.
It's a little bit too on the head there. But the one thing that I do like, there are the bearers remind me of Witchers, and I'm like, ooh, that's one thing that I like. So like the lore that they're building in this world, though at times the characters take it's too, you're right, direct inspiration from Game of Thrones, like the lore that they're building around this world is excellent. I'm loving it.
I agree with you. Sorry. Rob asked if the performance mode has gotten worked out yet. I don't think there's been an update yet. Alex or Joe, correct me, but it can be a little weird at times because the frame in performance mode is not 100% consistent, and then you can also not turn motion blur off. So it's got this weird, like, it really messes with my head sometimes, where if I'm kind of trying to move around quickly, it feels a little off at times.
And thank you for bringing that up. I think that would be my next con, is the motion blur is excessive, and I cannot wait until that gets patched out so that because usually motion blur is not a problem with me, but here it's like, whoa.
It's a lot.
It's aggressive. So yeah, I've been playing locked at 30, and honest to God, I can't tell the difference. I haven't put it to 60. Then. Yeah,
I've only played on performance.
I played on performance for a good 5-ish minutes, and I switched back and forth, and I was like, I'm just gonna keep it at the graphical fidelity here. So
okay,
yeah.
Alex just said the same thing, by the way. I eventually stuck with graphics mode, so I'll do that next time I turn it on. Cool. Luke, you're not playing it?
Final Fantasy? No
interest or
no interest right now. I'm enjoying Diablo. I've got something I'm playing that
there's so many damn games.
Yeah,
so many games.
I was bummed at Immortals Avium being delayed because that was gonna be my July game.
It looks great.
Yeah, that looks fun. That looks like a lit game right there. So I've kind of just been turning my brain off and playing games, just turn Diablo, playing something for review right now. It comes out late July, which is I got that code way early.
Is that the indie one we were talking about earlier?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Really good.
Cool.
So yeah, and of all things, I downloaded AEW. Play that. I don't know why. I was just like, you know what? I want to play a wrestling game. It looks like the old N64 stuff. So maybe that'll be fun.
By the way, did you guys see the NFL game announcement today?
No. What's?
There's a game coming out. I have the press release. I'll pull it up, but it's a game coming out. It's an arcade NFL game. It does not have the NFL license. It has the NFL Players Association license. So it's a 7v7 game in the vein of like NFL Street, where you have like power-ups and all real players, and you can create your own teams and players and stuff. But like
Street
it looks
or Blitz?
Like both. It's kind of like an arcade-inspired NFL game. And Kaepernick, of all people, is the cover. The cover
athlete.
What am I? Cover athlete. Thank you very much.
It's old school Blitz. I'm in.
That's awesome.
If I can hit
I've
people
got it right here.
the
It's
play.
called Wild Card Football. It comes out.
Ooh.
God, look up YouTube. I didn't get it on the site today, but it's 7-on-7. It has over 100 power-ups and game-breaking abilities. Like in the trailer, they show one person becoming like a giant and stomping over people, and like all kinds of crazy stuff can happen. So it looks like if you took Street, Blitz, and Mutant League Football and mashed it all together, it looks like that. And it looks just
give me
a
backyards baseball again, and you'll see me become a real fan.
Anything where I can do like after the play hits and stuff for fun.
Oh, it looks amazing.
NHL
dude.
Hits was my jam.
NHL Hits was awesome. October 10th. Of course, it's October. Why not?
Why?
So
I'll play that in January. But I loved those sports games where you could just play. That's one of the things I don't like now is that every sports game has devolved into create a character careers. I just want to play. I don't want to think about injuries. I don't want to think about resting players and roster stuff. I just like to play. The older I get, I'm very specific if I want to turn my brain off or go all in and deep dive like Elden Ring. You know what I mean? Like I only want a Starfield or an Elden Ring one a year. The rest of it, I just want to click buttons and mash and have a good time.
Enough.
Well, the fun thing about these types of games too is they're great to play with friends and just talk crap, right? Because they're not Sims. You're just having fun. I put the YouTube link, the trailer link in the chat, by the way. Yeah, it looks really cool. It looks kind of goofy at first, but if you advance like halfway through the trailer, it shows you actual gameplay, and it just looks fun, man. So it was a surprise announcement today.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Excellent. Speaking of sports, LeBron James has his own controller.
God, it's ugly.
It's ugly as sin.
Does he? I haven't seen this.
Like it's a PS5 one.
Now, let me ask you this, guys. This controller, I'm just gonna ask it. It's just me. Could it pilot a submarine?
Just want to know. Probably better than some others,
Just asking.
Yeah, I can't wait to put out my post show because I feel like people go find out I have a villain arc. I feel bad for.
Yeah. Hey, as we're winding down, I want to tell you all about an interview I just put up on XEP. With a guy named Graham Reed. He's a solo developer. He's putting out a really cool lo-fi beat arcade shooter. But I just put this interview up. It's the 8th Xbox exclusive interview for this year alone, which is really cool. But I'm worried it's going to get lost in the shuffle with all the FTC stuff. He talked a lot about representation in games and working with Xbox and getting more Black creators, developers involved in game creation, and I would love if people take a moment and go check that out, because I don't want that to get lost in the FTC conversation, and I'm really proud of that content.
Which sadly it probably will, given this week. But we can blow it up or try to.
That's my fear. There's some good also news bits in there as well, which is just worth people taking a look at. So if you're here in chat, go check out XCP's channel. Put up some good stuff there. And I've had some good fun talks with a bunch of different creators lately. Neo GameSpark, King David, Baron came on XCP, just in general. But don't miss that interview. I don't want that to get lost because representation in games is important, and I don't want that to go away or to be lost in the shuffle. I mean, not go, obviously. You know what I'm saying. There we go.
Fair enough. You first look at
I just put the link in the chat, but I'll try and remember to put it in the description too.
What a surprise turn, you know?
Yeah.
What I was trying to say
expectations
is I'll try and put the link in the description of this video too, so you can find it easily. Thanks. It's in the chat right there if you check out the live chat.
Thanks.
Anything you want to plug there, Ians, before we get on out of here?
Yeah, I'm like 2/3 the way through a long Xbox article on kind of where Xbox is going in the future. Obviously, a lot of talk about Xbox right now, given the case. But this is more around what we heard in LA, some of the conversations I had, part of the media briefing. So I literally have a 45-minute audio recording from the media briefing that wasn't publicized, that I wanted to share some details. So Matt Booty and Sarah talking about, monthly active users, certain games, their focus. So just things I wanted to call out to kind of detail for people where Xbox is thinking nowadays going into 2024. So I hope to have that up tomorrow. We'll see if I have time, but it'll be out soon regardless. The only other thing to plug is, excuse me, is I have a preview video up of the finals, which I think I talked about last week briefly, but it's a very
Destructibility.
Yeah, destructive shooter from the original Battlefield devs. It's Embark Studio. Incredibly impressive game. I can't wait till I get to play it again. I don't know when the next kind of closed session is going to be, but if you want to learn more about it and why I think it's going to be really a really big shooter on the market, especially in streaming, I've got like a 5 or 6 minute preview video of that up on the channel too, so you can check that out. We just got a super chat from Mr. Rob Frawley. Let me get to that, Joe, before you close us out.
Sure.
$5 super chat from Rob. Now that you've spoiled us with 2 consecutive weekly shows, I expect you to be back next week and no exceptions. Thanks for the show.
Maybe
we'll see.
We'll see if there's something to talk about, maybe, but I'm a real tired boy, I'm now looking at the finals gameplay and it looks oh my goodness, this looks
I can't explain the you can see it in the trailer. And what I can say, if you look at their trailers, their teasers, they go crazy with the destructibility. The game is like that. That's not like something they're showing where it's like the game doesn't play like that. That's how it plays. It's crazy.
It gives me like the art style of like Overwatch a bit with the shooting that you would expect from like a Battlefield. And so like knowing that these are ex-Battlefield devs, destructibility, like y'all don't know how like I love Battlefield. And this just speaks to my soul.
Yeah, trust me, it is a load of fun. It's 3 teams of 3, so it's mad chaos on the maps, and there's a ton of verticality, and there's no fall damage, so it's all about your loads flying all over, and rocket launchers, and flamethrowers, and grenades, and it's amazing. It's so much fun. So
that's awesome.
Ade followed up with a £5 super chat and said what Rob said. So just for you guys to close the super chats, and thank you very much, guys, for that. Honestly, what we talk about internally, I'll just share between the 3 of us, is, as you guys know, we all have our own show. We have Bitcast, XCP, Trophy Room, and when we started Cast, the whole thing was we love chatting with each other. We have fun. This was going to be our fun side project, and that's why we're more inconsistent with it, because we're all so busy with obviously real life, but also what we do for our own channels and podcasts and shows and everything, and guesting and all these other things that we're involved in. Sometimes it's really hard to just be prepared to do another show every week, right? So we always said this was going to attempt to be a bi-weekly show, but it's really, we try not to put pressure on ourselves to worry about when we're doing Cast, which is why it just kind of randomly pops up when you see it. So
and like when we were even like coming on the show, we were like, do we have notes for this? I was like, oh wait. So like all this is mostly off the cuff. Like I was just using like old Trophy Room notes.
That's what I do too. I use XCP notes.
And we don't have any notes.
Not for nothing. Thank you all for joining us amidst that inconsistent schedule. We appreciate that.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, we've honestly been seeing more viewership on Cast. We've been getting more audio listeners as well. And obviously you can tell that the three of us love BSing with each other. So it's a lot of fun for us as well. And as you can tell, this is a little more casual than our three normal shows. So that's how we look at it. But I just want to let you guys know that's why we're not like a set time every week or every other week. So we'll try to be more consistent, but say it again.
I love shooting the shit with you, Ains.
Big time. Ains, that's the whole reason we asked you if we could do it. Because Joe and I, we shoot the shit all the time. We don't get to hang out with you a lot. So that was
a slight against you, Luke.
Oh man,
that's what Joe was going for there, Luke. But I appreciate the sentiment. Thank you.
Right. That's right. But yeah,
I always joke these guys play games like what? Like now you play during the night, and I'm always like, I don't start playing games until like 10 p.m. Central usually. So like we don't cross paths too well. But
I'm a sleepy boy.
That said, you can find me over at the Trophy Room this week. Listen, we are getting there's a lot of noise out there, and Apple being Apple, did not refresh the feed when they were supposed to, and our show didn't go up until 9:45 in the morning. So this week's episode's doing really bad, and it's affecting my imposter syndrome. So please go over to the Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast made by the players for the players. Me and my best friend Kyle talk about the latest, the greatest, you know the spiel. All right, Apple Podcast, Spotify, but really mostly Apple. Apple this week, please. And also, we record the show live each and every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so you could join us there. And you can watch Ains, his show every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
It.
You could catch Captain Logan's show, XCP, whenever they decide to upload that. I think it's Sunday nights. Great work over there.
Logan.
Oh, Logan is great. I love Logan.
I missed him. Legitimately. Baron did so great this episode. I can't believe he solo hosted that whole thing. All right, keep casting that co-op.
Peace.
Joe sucks.
Co-op.